Okay. Honorable members, greetings again. We had a very successful, robust meeting earlier on, but we had to break to attend to the plenary sitting this afternoon. It has just ended. The
recording in progress.
To place and start stuck in the traffic, but will join. Honorable Jobo, Honorable Siwisa, who were in the house physically, have also joined. Honorable Van Schalkwyk also has joined, and they were in the house. But I think honorable members, we will start. Welcome back, honorable members. We also welcome the chairperson of the board of Agrement SA and the management of Agrement SA, the acting CEO or the CEO with his or her team, the chairperson of IDT and the management of IDT. You are most welcome. We are here to deal with your APPs as we prepare for budget votes as this portfolio committee. So we need to look at your APPs and interact with them, engage you, and discuss with you on issues that we feel that they need to be changed. You need to tighten the balls there. In fact, we will be playing our oversight role given to us by the parliament and the constitution of this country. Those that were not with us in the earlier session in the morning, you are all welcome. Those that were with us earlier on, you are welcome back, honorable members. We only have 2 hours. By 8, we need to be out of here. Ms. Martinez, we will start with IDT. The chairperson of IDT, then the CEO of IDT.
Good evening, Chairperson and honorable members of the committee, management of the IDT, and colleagues from other entities. My name is Zimbini Hill. I am the interim chairperson of the IDT. With me, I have our acting CEO, Tebogo Malaka, our CFO, Ms. Clarenda Simpson, our General Manager of Strategy, Mr. Chris Mulwazi, and our Acting Executive Corporate Services, Ms. Moketenyane Moleko. I'm pleased to introduce to this committee the annual performance plan for the IDT for the year 2022 to 2023 financial year. Honorable members will recall that the IDT has come out of a very difficult period. And although we're not yet out of it, significant milestones have been achieved. Since coming into office in August 2021, the current Board of Trustees has worked hard to revitalize the IDT and to turn it possibly into a fit for purpose and financially sustainable entity. Our overall goal is to cement the entity's role as part of the infrastructure delivery value chain in our country. As part of these goals, the board has been working on, amongst other things, the following. We've been working on the reconfiguration process aimed at finding a suitable shape and form for the IDT. We've been working on developing a new customer-centric value proposition for the entity. This is part of our customer retention and building and expanding strategy. We've also been working on improving stakeholder relations through regular engagement with our key stakeholders. And this engagement is part of reviving the IDT brand. We've also been trying to generate new business from current and new clients. We've recruited suitably qualified staff, and we continue to recruit suitably qualified staff to fill critical vacant positions. We are reviewing the entity's business processes and acquiring enabling technology to improve efficiency. we're also building a values-driven internal culture. The most critical of all of our activities is working towards improving the audit outcome. To realize the goals and aspirations of the IDT as presented in this plan, the entity will require additional support from the shareholder in the form of program portfolio, which will prevent the IDT from having the occasional dependencies on government grants and financial support. With that said, I'd like to hand over to our acting CEO, Ms. Tebogo Malaka. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Martinez, can you share the hosting rights so that we can see the presentation on our screens?
I'm done, Chair.
Is Ms. Tebogo in?
She is, but she's still muted.
Sorry, Chairperson. I'm trying to share the presentation from my side.
Okay.
Can everybody see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just start from the beginning. Good afternoon, Chairperson and honorable members and my colleagues. Thank you very much, Chairperson of the board, for the opening. My presentation will be focusing on the following. There will be a contents with the following background, planning assumptions, strategic positioning, alignment with MTSF, priorities and outcomes, APP targets and budget, and conclusion. I'm not going to dwell much on this slide on our history, Chairperson. The IDT was established in 1990 and we are still in existence today, although our mandate changed in 1997 and 1999. Oh. The screen is not moving. Okay.
Is it moving on your side? Because I would ask. Oh, okay, okay.
It's moving, Chairperson, thank you. The next slide is on the mission and vision. Our mission is as highlighted on the screen. The IDT is a built environment project management agency which manages and delivers integrated public infrastructure. I'm not going to touch on it, but as the mandate of the IDT was revised, our mission and vision also changed, and we also included the brand promise, which is an assured efficient infrastructure delivery, and the values are highlighted as such. In terms of the environmental context, we try to touch on what affects our environment as the IDT and what makes us relevant. And we are saying that the IDT strategic intent is informed by the following realities. And the fact that our country is still facing huge infrastructure backlogs and disjointed implementation mechanisms, non-compliance with established delivery systems, implementation inefficiencies, they undermine the demands for the fiscal prudence in the delivery of infrastructure. And in some challenges, there are project cost overrun, overspending, inflated cost of delivery, and lack of integration and alignment of public infrastructure that lead to insignificant losses. And therefore, as a result of this environmental context, the IDT remains a valuable asset for the state in terms of implementation of infrastructure delivery. And in terms of the IDT operational context, this touches on the background in terms of the previous challenges that the IDT faced, chairperson and members. The entity past challenges had an adverse impact on its revenue generation and ability to fund its operating costs, and this threatened its going concern status. Although we are still experiencing financial sustainability challenges, as highlighted by the chairperson, the entity is working very hard to ensure that we move towards being financially sustainable. And we continue with our client engagement effort to ensure that we do have good relationship with our clients, and it's so far bearing positive results because we are experiencing new agreements that we are signing with our clients. And there are efforts also towards the transformation from where we are and where the board is taking the IDT in the form of the reconfiguration of the IDT. And the previous challenge was also on our ICT challenges, and the organization is currently making sure that we are addressing these challenges. And the entity is also expediting the acquisition of human resource capacity. There have been a number of positions that have been advertised as highlighted by the chairperson. Our planning assumptions, and I will touch on the external environment, which are the external conditions necessary for the plan to be successfully executed. And this includes our long-term sustainability and certainty of the mandate. The IDT retains its mandate and its status as a program implementing agent and an entity of government. And also I will touch on the corporate form and identity. The IDT will remain a Schedule 2 entity for at least the next 3 years, irrespective of the proposal for a new corporate form. And changes in the corporate form may be introduced during this period. However, this will not significantly affect or alter the role of the entity as a program implementing agent for government. The going concern status, we will remain a going concern for the next 3 years. Financial injection will be sourced to fund critical areas of operation to improve efficiencies and financial surplus, or at least break-even point. Although we are highlighting that we are moving towards increasing our portfolio, there are teething problems now where we will need a bit of financial injection until we get there. But you will see as I present our targets that we are aiming to achieve a certain portfolio that will assist us to break even and also ensure our financial sustainability. In terms of our business portfolio, the IDT will attract sufficient value of business portfolio year on. And execution of secured program portfolio will enable the entity to financially break even and ultimately generate operating surplus. The internal environment touches on the following, which are the conditions necessary for the plan to be successfully executed. It's the delivery capacity, enabling technology, as I have highlighted, our businesses processes, because currently we are redesigning our structure and processes to ensure that we are able to service our clients appropriately. And we are also looking at the organizational culture. You'll remember that with the previous challenges, the culture of the organization was affected, especially with the high turnover of the executive level within the organization. And we're also looking at attracting quality personnel, ensure that we retain the skill that is there where it's necessary, but also attract new skills where there is a need. In terms of strategic positioning, the following slide touches on the pillars of the 3-year strategy. I'm not going to dwell much on this slide, but this includes our client environment, the services that we as the IDT offer to our clients, our capability to ensure that we deliver on those services, and also the revenue that we will generate to make sure that we are able to be financially sustainable, and also to be able to spend on the infrastructure grant that we will be implementing, and also contribute to the BBBE and designated groups, and also in terms of functional assets. Moving on with the pillars of the 3-year strategy also includes building an organizational capability that is fit for purpose. We need to transform the entity into an agile organization which will respond to the customer needs, and also design and structure the organization to deliver on its brand promise. The other one is on refocusing and streamlining the client service offering, ensuring that as the IDT, we develop a portfolio of market segmented services and delivery channels which delivers on customers' value proposition. And also reconstitute our contract management and income stream system and processes. The current challenge now is on our contracting model, which doesn't assist us to collect enough management fee to ensure that we are financially sustainable. And there are discussions with Treasury on the revision of our management fees so that we become financially sustainable and also be able to deliver quality social infrastructure on time, within budget, and on scope and scope. The last one on the pillars is secure the entity's financial sustainability by growing our revenue streams. I have touched a bit on this, and also adapt our SCM processes to align with the client services and compliance requirements so that we become efficient and effective in the delivery of our infrastructure. However, following the legal processes in terms of the PFMA and the Treasury practice notes and our policies. Implement the reviewed contracting model to ensure financial sustainability. Like I have said, when we are contracting now with our client, we are reviewing how we implement and also how we collect our management fees to ensure that we become financially sustainable. There's a bit of an issue with the contracting model in the sense that we can only recover our management fees once there's expenditure, which becomes a problem because if the client withdraws the project before expenditure, they don't take note of the milestones that the IDT had done before the expenditure. And as a result, IDT ends up using its own resources, but not benefiting in terms of the stages. So we are moving towards the clients paying us in stages. For every stage that we complete, then we will be paid our management fee so that we improve the financial status of the organization. And also on our data collection, I'm sure members, you are aware that a number of clients still do owe the IDT, and as a result, we're not able to pay our service providers. It's something that we are working on. Although the status have improved since the appointment of the board last year, but it's something that we need to monitor very closely, and also ensure that our legal costs are at a minimum because we had a huge litigation bill. However, we are working on reducing that litigation bill. In terms of alignment with priorities and outcomes, the outcomes and MTSF priorities alignment, I'm not going to touch much on this, Chairperson, but it highlights the impact that the IDT will have in terms of the national development plans, the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure outcomes, because they are our mother department, and therefore we have to contribute to their priorities as well and achieve the IDT outcomes as well. I will dwell much on our APP targets, Chairperson. In terms of our APP targets, the first outcome is on increased access to quality social infrastructure. And this touches on how we will be implementing our projects. And the first one is completed projects on time, projects completed within budget, which with the previous target, it was 75, and we're still maintaining that. However, we are increasing that target in the subsequent year so that we continue to improve. This taking into consideration the current challenges and making sure that at least we have a standard set on completing projects on time and also within budget. And also we have targeted to achieve 21 new or replaced facilities, looking at the portfolio that we have now. And also we are looking at targeting 25 non-greenfield social infrastructure facilities that comply with infrastructure norms and standards. And we have also outlined the targets for the outer years. In terms of outcome 2, which is a transformed built environment, Chairperson and members, we are looking at building the capacity of our previously disadvantaged contractors, and with the program of contractor development program. So on this outcome, we are looking at how many contractors will be developing in terms of a project allocated to, I think I jumped a slide, let me just check. Yes, it starts here. Yeah. The outcome to the first slide is on transformed built environment, which is our BBB expenditure, and we are targeting 75% of the portfolio that we will be having. And then also on the contractor development contractors panel, we are targeting 60 contractors. I just want to give a brief background on this one. The contractor development program is a 3-year program. And the last participant finished in the last financial year, and therefore we have already sent out an advert for new participants for a period of 3 years. Now this relates to the number of contractors that will be on the program for 2022 and 2023. If you look at the target, it remains the same for the 22 and 23 and the outer years, because we will be developing the same contractors for a period of 3 years. And then on the target of women contractors participating in the contractor development program, this is the percentage of out of the contract participants, we will target 40% to be women, 30% to be youth, and 2% to be people with disabilities. And when we come to the number of projects allocated to contractor development program, Chair, if you look at our targets, it's 0, because the first year normally we train them before we can allocate projects. And then in the second year, once they have received the training, they are then able to get projects allocated so that they can implement the training that they have been exposed to. So in terms of our plan for the contractor development program, the first year it will be training the 60 participants, and then the second year will be then allocating projects and monitoring them and supporting them and mentoring them to be able to move from one grade to the next. The next target is on contractor development contractor development contractors graduated from a CIDB higher grade designation. So this talks to what I've been saying, to say, once we allocate projects, we must make sure that they move from one grade to the other, taking into consideration the training that they would have received. So for the first year, it will be training. And then the second year, it will be allocation of projects and then assisting them to move from one grade to the next. The third outcome, it will be optimized job opportunities. And this relates to the opportunities that we create through our social infrastructure projects and also our EPWP program. Now on the construction work opportunities, we are targeting 5,100. In the previous year, 21-22, it was 3,000. We have increased it, and it's also increasing in the outer years. With regard to EPWP, it's 64,000. It remains the same in line with the service level agreement. However, Chair, it does not mean we will only ensure that we reach this actual. We target 64, however, we normally overachieve this target. But in terms of the service level agreement, the minimum that we have to reach is 64,000. The next one is on a compliant and fit for purpose entity, and it relates to our financial sustainability, Chair and members. It relates to the business generated. Out of this, we aim to target 3.5 billion of we have 3.5 billion of confirmed business, and we are targeting to achieve 965 million of new business, and the value of new business generated from national programs will be 1.7, from provincial will be 9.6. Now, normally out of the business that we have generated, there's a target for expenditure, and we aim to achieve 5.27 billion of expenditure. Now, there was a calculation that was made to say, for us to break even, we need a minimum of 5 billion portfolio to break even and also start generating reserves. So with this value of program spend of 5 billion, we are to ensure that we remain financially viable, which will assist us not to seek any grant funding from government if we achieve this portfolio and increase it over the years. And out of this 5.2 billion, we aim to collect management fee of 90% from this. We aim to collect 90% of management fee because in a financial year, it's not normally possible to spend 100% of your program, because some clients will bring the program late in the year and not at the beginning of the year, and you find that the programs moves at different stages, and therefore we cannot achieve 100% of our management fee collection. And then in terms of the target of compliance with legislative requirement, we intend to fully comply with legislation, especially on payment of invoices within 30 days, and also percentage of compliant overheads invoices that will be paid within 30 days. Chair, I would hand over to the CFO for the financials, which is the 3 coming slides. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, CEO. Thank you, Chairperson. Good evening to the members and the Minister. I trust that I am audible. I've got a few connectivity issues. Okay, my name is Clarenda Simpson. I'm the CFO of IDT. Just as an introduction to our budget that supports the targets for the next 3 years. The budget is a 3-year projection, and we've also provided for a projection for 2022, 2023, and the next 3 outer years. The planned, the main components of the budget are planned program expenditure, as indicated on slide 24, revenue, which is derived from management fees, operational expenditure, and capital expenditure. So if we look at the current slide, we've got a budgeted program expenditure of 4.5 billion. It's made up of 2 categories of program expenditure, social infrastructure and EPWP. We've budgeted for a total staff complement of 247 staff, and our average gross management fee rate is 5% based on our portfolio of projects and planned projects. And then our budgeted management fee, which is derived from our program expenditure at a rate of an average rate of 5%, is 267 million for the current financial year that we're in, 22-23. And then for the next 3 outer years, it is as indicated on the slide. And yeah, that includes our revenue derived from management fees, the 172 million, revenue from EPWP, 90 million, and then other income, which is interest and income that we receive from tender deposits. And then for the current year, we have not budgeted for any grant funding because of lack of confirmation or guarantee from the shareholder with regard to grant funding. So our total income is for the current year, 22-23, is 267 million, and then the projected totals for the outer years as indicated on the slides. And then our operational expenditure for the current year, 22-23, is 358 million, and it's comprised of, if we can move to slide 25. Okay, on slide 25, we've got operational expenditure of 358 million for the current year, and then for the outer years as reflected. Just to highlight that the biggest component of our operational expenditure is our salary bill. It's made up of the current payroll or salary bill, which is the 131 million. And then we've also provisioned for new employees, as indicated on the slide, to the extent of 56 million. And then also recruitment of project managers. So that's 10 million. So if you look at the outer years, we've provisioned for an annual increase as well in terms of the guidelines provided when we were completing the MTF projections. And then just to highlight some material amounts, we've got expenditure provided for litigation fees. We find that the IDT is a defendant in a number of litigation cases. And the root cause for that is basically cases that have been initiated by suppliers due to either late payment by IDT for services rendered or non-payment. And that is because of delays that we experience in terms of transfers of payments from client departments to the IDT, or in some cases, non-payment at all. And as a result, we find that we find ourselves in a lot of legal disputes, which attract a lot of legal fees. So we've provisioned for that for the current year and the 3 outer years as well. We've also provisioned for external audit fees to the extent of just under 11 million, and then it increases with inflation over the outer years as well. We've also provisioned for organizational redesign to the extent of 5 million. It's reflected as restructuring costs on the slide. So we've provisioned for that in the 22-23 financial year because we are currently undertaking that project. And then as well, we've also provisioned for rent. Some of our regional offices are renting office space, and those regions are basically Northwest, Eastern Cape, Limpopo, and KwaZulu-Natal. The rest of our regions are either currently sitting at head office, for example, Gauteng, and then the remaining regions like Free State and Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, Western Cape, are basically occupying PPW offices or premises. And then another item that is also basically standing out is other operating expenses. So what's sitting in that figure is basically your general operational expenditure items like your bank charges, your catering, your recruitment costs, your resource costs, which relates to, for example, internal audit, outsourcing some of the audits, IT audits, review of financial statements. Wherever they lack internal expertise, then they outsource. So we've provisioned for such expenditure and other operating expenditure, and then also trustees' remuneration, stationery and printing, and other fees like storage costs, etc. And then we've also got consultant costs or expenditure provisioned for, and that relates to a number of projects that are being undertaken that were initiated at the board strat planning session. For example, enhancement of your IT systems, and we basically automating our supply chain management system to improve turnaround and efficiency of projects, and then also looking at automating our billing systems, etc. So we're also looking at automating the management of our programs and projects as well. Okay, so if you look at the bottom line, after we can move to the next slide. Okay, so before we actually provide for CapEx or capital acquisitions, we're sitting on a deficit of 91 million for 22-23, and then it sort of decreases in the next 3 outer years, which is sort of a positive reflection. And we provision for CapEx items as well. For example, due to a lot of load shedding, we need to ensure business continuity. So we've provisioned for things like generators, uninterrupted power supply, which is a UPS. We also provision for project management system, which is currently lacking at IDT. This will assist us in terms of monitoring and managing projects, improving turnaround time, ensuring that we collect management fees timeously in terms of work in progress as well. We've also provisioned for acquisition or enhancement of CCTV equipment. Currently, our CCTV cameras are faulty and not giving us assurance from a security perspective. So we are upgrading in that regard. And then other IT equipment like your laptops for new staff that are coming, we've provisioned for that for the current year and outer years as well. And then we're also doing a lot of maintenance at the current head office building in Pretoria, and we've provisioned for that as well to the extent of 5 million, and then of the decreases in the outer years. And then in total, after we deduct all the operational and CapEx expenditure from your income or your revenue, we get a net deficit in the 22-23 year and the outer years, we start on a deficit of 107 million, and then it sort of decreases over the next 3 years. And then in the fourth year, we basically break even. So at the bottom of the slide, I've indicated required additional projects to break even. So in order for the IDT to actually break even, if we are not basically getting financial assistance from the shareholder, we would need additional project expenditure, program expenditure to the extent of 2 billion, 2.1 billion in the 22-23 financial year, and then 1.6 billion in the next year, and the outer years 1.4, and then in the last third year, outer year, we don't need any additional program expenditure because we would be breaking even on our own. So that is the current planned expenditure, or budgeted projections for the current year and the next 3 years. We can go to the next slide. So on this slide, I think I've spoken to most of the critical issues on this slide. For example, the fact that program expenditure is based on estimated contract work to be carried out. And then also that's the basis for which we derive our management fee. Then the second bullet point talks to additional program expenditures that we require in order for us to break even and to be self-sustainable. And then the last bullet talks to the shortfall that we currently experience when budgeting for income and expenditure, where IDT is standing alone without government assistance or shareholder assistance. So in the last bullet, we indicate that the funding requirement is 107 million for the 22-23 year, 83.9 million for the 23-24 year, 71.9 million for the 24-25 year, and then nothing required in the 25-26 year because we will have sufficient income in terms of management fees to cover our operational and CapEx expenditures. Next slide. So this just indicates what I've already alluded to earlier on in my presentation to say that on average, management fee is calculated at 5% of program expenditure, 8.5% for EPWP. And then I've indicated that we've provisioned at least 5% inflationary adjustment over the current year and the outer years with regard to employee costs. And then project related travel accounts for 60% of the budget and 40% relates to administration. That's where we've budgeted for travel expenditure. We can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so I've also indicated that at head office, we're currently doing a lot of remedial work, especially with regard to the walls in the premises, the building itself. So we've provisioned for that. Also, we've got a bit of electrical challenges. So we've provisioned for ensuring that our wiring is compliant and that we get a certificate of compliance. And then we're looking at basically improving our IT processes and providing for fiber to improve our connectivity and also to ensure efficiency. We've got a lot of systems that we use at the IDT, a lot of them that are dependent on integration to the main systems like your ERP systems, your Great Plains. So without proper connectivity, which is dependent on proper IT infrastructure like your fiber, then you have challenges in terms of operational efficiency. So IT is dealing with that, and we've got a project underway in that regard. I've mentioned or spoken about the project management system that will assist us in improving effectiveness and efficiency related to the core business. And then a consultant's costs, I've touched on that as well. A lot of projects underway as a result of a board decision taken at a strategy session. And then external audit fees is something that we budget for on an annual basis because of the AG's mandate to come and audit us on an annual basis in terms of the Public Audit Act. And yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, that brings me to the end of the financial presentation. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chairperson. In conclusion, Chair, we are recommending that the Portfolio Committee takes note of the IDT Corporate annual performance plan for the year 2022-23. Thank you, Chairperson and members.
Thank you, CEO and the chair of IDT. Can we then get a presentation from Agrement SA? Agrement SA. We will interact with your presentation after we have received the one from Agrement SA. Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Good evening, Chair, and members of the Portfolio Committee, and the Minister and colleagues. My name is Jeffrey Maachi, and I'm the Acting Chairperson of Agrement South Africa. And with me tonight is the CEO of Agrement, Mr. Richard Somanje, who is going to take us through our APP for 2022-23. Just a few issues that I would want the members of the Portfolio Committee to note are the major initiatives that Agrement South Africa is going to undertake in the year 2022-23. And these are related to the new business initiatives in line with our mandates. So the two critical projects that we'll be embarking on is actually the eco-labeling system. And with this project, we actually hope then that the project will assist the nation in addressing indoor air quality and environment of most of our building products. And we are also hoping that the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure will incorporate the specifications that we're going to develop in their own specifications. The second major project that we will be undertaking is actually the incorporating the development of the green rating tool for public buildings. We anticipate again that this project here is going to be used to star rate all the public works buildings, and the CEO will get into more details around that. But most importantly, as we have seen over the last year or two due to the pandemic, I think that Agrement South Africa is one of its key mandates to support policymakers to minimize the risk associated with the use of innovative building technologies. With that, I think that this year, 2022-23, is going to see Agrement making a very big, impactful, and going to show its relevance in some of the disasters that have actually occurred over the last few weeks. In particular, I'm talking about what has happened in KwaZulu-Natal. And again, Agrement South Africa is and has engaged with the shareholder to assist in the usage of innovative technologies in that province. This may not actually come through our presentation for 2022-23 because these events actually happened recently, but it is something that Agrement is going to actually assist in ensuring that human settlements are delivered faster and other social infrastructure is actually assisted in the KZN. With those opening remarks, Chairperson and colleagues, I would really like to hand over to the CEO to take us through the details of the APP 2022-23. Over to you, Richard.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chairperson. May I have the right to present? Good evening, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee and the honorable members. Just want to share the presentation. Good evening, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee of Public Works and Infrastructure, honorable members, the Minister, and the Chairperson of Agrement South Africa, as well as IDT. colleagues from Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, ADT, IDT, and colleagues all protocol observed. Today we're presenting the annual performance plans for Agrement South Africa 2022-2023. Our presentations are outlined as follows. We'll look at the business continuity strategy due to COVID-19, the annual performance plans in terms of the overview by the minister. We'll look at the Agrement South Africa Act requirement in an overview way, an alignment to NDP, National Growth Plan, as well as an alignment to Department of Public Works and Infrastructure strategic outcome, as well as the priorities. We'll look at external environmental analysis, the strategies to respond to those environment, assess initiatives, organizational structure, and financial and budget, as well as the programs and objectives. Chair, as I continue to observe the protocol regulations in terms of the return of staff to members to office, and as I apply the business continuity strategy in which incorporates the use of digital platforms to hold meetings, and we also require staff to wear masks when they are in the office at all times. And we also apply digital options in various areas of ASA operations. And then we provide hand sanitizers at the strategic locations, as well as managing office space by making sure that the configurations allows for physical distancing and in the common areas. And we're also noting that in terms of the overviews by the minister that these annual performance plans address several key objectives in terms of strengthening the organizations, which is ASA, and enhance its core deliverable capacity, improve its operational efficiency and sustainability. And we also support the broader economic social objectives of the Ministry of Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, in which this entity is a standalone. And it is acknowledged that with only 8 years remaining to achieve our targets, is that that has been stipulated in the National Development Plan 2030, we also fallen short or significantly short in achieving them. And therefore, all interventions that will tackle unemployment and poverty by supporting the designated groups will go a long way in terms of introducing their products and systems which will be ready for the market. I will not dwell much, Chair, in terms of the object of ASA because it's what is contained in our mandate, but it's important, Chair, to also emphasize what are the requirements of the mandates in terms of our functioning as an organization. We exist to make rules, determine the processes, procedures, and forms, and relating to the issuing, amendments, suspensions, and restatements, withdrawal, as well as the renewal of agreement certificates. It is also important to note that we also issue certificates in the prescribed format. If it is satisfied that non-standardized construction-related product or system is fit for purpose, subject to the payment of the required fees. We monitor such a certificate and manage the renewal of all the certificates, and also establish and maintain a public register of the applications rejected, certificates issued, amended, and suspended, reinstated, withdrawn, and renewed. We're also noting the 7 national priorities as stipulated by the President. And ASA fully supports these initiatives and believe that the fit for purpose certificates awarded to organizations will contribute towards the economic development, thereby indirectly supports the 7 priorities. Chair, what we are reflecting here is our shared outcome in terms of the sector, as it's an infrastructure-led growth, whereby the department, together with its 4 entities, as well as the provincial departments, work together under the public works infrastructure sector to lead these initiatives of ensuring that there's a transformed built environment, there's an integrated planning, sustainable infrastructure investment, productive assets, and optimized job opportunities. We further articulate in terms of how Agrement link its outcome to the department, as is highlighted in orange in those 3 blocks to the department that led to the outcome of the government, as well as the 7 national priorities. Agrement, as it's also focused on as an center of innovators and the stakeholder confidence, we also highlight in terms of how we optimize the use of non-standardized products and systems, as well as the application of a quality management systems to ensure that those products, systems that are administered by the certificate holders are managed in terms of their quality management systems. These contribute to the transform build environments that translates to, or the shared outcome of the departments translated to the government outcome, feeding to the national priorities. We looked at the board of ASA, which is supported by the 4 committees, which is an audit and risk committees, human resource and remuneration committee, technical certifications and compliance committees, as well as an industry advisory committee. These 4 committees support the board in achieving its mandate. I wouldn't dwell much in terms of the vision, mission, and values of ASA remain the same. And our external environment analysis is that we operate within the built environment sector of South Africa. And we have an oversight, which is our board, which is an accounting authority, and ASA report to the parliament through the office of the executive authority, that is the Ministry of Department of Public Works and Infrastructure in terms of the Public Finance Management Act. The activities of ASA are aligned to the mandate of the organization, in which it's aligned to the Department of Public Works and national priorities. The activities of ASA are impacted by the macroeconomy, as well as the state of the built environment industry generally, and the construction sector, especially the housing construction in particular. The strategies responding to the external environment is that in the next medium-term strategic framework period, ASA will continue to focus on these following areas: the issuing, amending, suspending, reinstating, withdrawing, or renewing of Agrement certificates. The awareness program on non-standardized construction-related products or systems certified by us. Encouraging innovations in respect of technical, socio-economic, and the regulatory aspect of non-standardized construction-related products or systems certified by us. The monitoring and evaluations, the quality management systems of the certified construction-related products and system, and therefore also supporting and promoting the introductions and the use of certified non-standardized construction-related products or systems in the local as well as the international market. We also touched in terms of how we implement the eco-labeling scheme, where ASA is a competent body to undertake these schemes for government buildings and products in a renewal period. The eco-labeling scheme will address aspects such as indoor air quality, the comfort, environmentally friendly, material, as well as energy resource conservation. The eco-labeling will be incorporated into the Department of Public Works an infrastructure standard specification for construction-related works. We're also going to be administering the green rating tools for public buildings, whereby us is mandated to rate the public sector buildings using the green building rating tool that is currently being formulated. This will further present an opportunity to rate the current public buildings, where the new building shall be built according to the set standards and thus contribute to the green economy. And us has got the strategic links with the members of the World Federation of Technical Assessment Organization, commonly well known as WAFTAO. We've got our sister companies, public entities in terms of CIDB, CBE, National Home Builders Regulation Council, South African Bureau of Standards, as well as the government department. The organizational structure of ARTHUR, which is led by its board, and it's got this chief executive officer and 3 executive, the CFO, executive manager, technical services, and corporate services. Here below, we also indicate our medium-term expenditure in terms of our budget looking at the 2022-2023, whereby we start in the current year, we are looking just shy of 3 million of the revenue that will be generated in the current year, and it increased at an inflationary rate in the outer years. And in terms of our revenue generations, in terms of issuing the administrations of certificates, will generate 1.2 million, and our project management will generate just 500,000. And the investments in terms of our surplus funds is estimated to generate just over 1 million, including the 34 million that is transfers, and it will be 37 million. That is our total budget. And out of that total budget, we expect to spend to the tune of 25 million. That is the compensation of employees split between 50%, that is the administration, and the other is the technical, that is the mandate driven. And that will be, the 10 million will be spent on the provisions of goods and services, and then the depreciations, and also over the period in the outer years. Our programs and program objective, Chair, in the current year, we plan to achieve 6 eco-labeling schemes. That is under our indicators, is that the number of eco-labeling schemes. Our plan for the full program is to achieve 11 schemes, and this is the last batch of our schemes that we will now start to sweat these projects in terms of using these schemes to generate revenue so as to be self-sustainable. And in terms of the Agrement certifications project managed and finalized within the time frame, we plan to assess 87% of the projects and completed within the project time frame in the current year. With regard to the number of Agrement certificates issued in the current year, we plan to issue 20 Agrement certificates that will increase in terms of almost just shy of 5%, 20% over the outer years. And we also want to issue the report, Chair, that will start to tell us the impact of what these certificates are having in our community and the South Africa at large. And in that case, we plan to issue 4 reports that will tell us the impact of these certificates in various categories. We also plan for the first time, Chair, as a new indicator, the number of agreements to be signed with the specifiers to specify Agrement certificates, products, and systems in their bid to specification. In this case, Chair, what we want to achieve is that we want to participate on various specifiers bids committee to introduce the innovative products that have been certified by Agrement, so as they include it in their specification when they issue the bid documents. In that way, we will safely introduce the use of innovative products, and we plan to start with 2. It will increase with time over the years. And during the course of the year, we also plan to do the quality audit and compliance for 90% of our certificates in use. Our current certificates in use is sitting at 207 certificates, Chair. In terms of the administrative objectives, we plan to have a clean external audit without compliance issue, Chair. And in as far as the compliance with the supply chain, we plan to spend our budget, 96% of our approved budget, we plan to spend that. And all these 96% we plan to spend without having to pay our service providers within the 30 days. And we also plan to have a 0 irregular expenditure in our spending of our 96%, as well as the 0 fruitless and wasteful expenditure in our quest for spending this budget. We also plan to empower our staff in terms of provisions for training that will be an employer initiatives, so as we create an institutional memory that will make sure that this institution indicates the training that needs to be achieved during the period and achieve that. These two targets, Chair, it came as a result of having to look at how we can prioritize the economic reconstruction and recovery plan, as it's a project that is currently underway. And on that, Agrement is looking at the outcome of industrialization and growing the productive economy by conducting a number of training. This training is directed to the prospective tenderers in terms of how they can complete tenders that our side is advertising, because time and again, whenever we advertise, the response is not that good. And we acknowledge that ASA is always advertising tenders that are very technical in nature. But we also want to see a situation where our training are earmarked to the designated groups in such a way that we want to bring them and to identify if they've got products or systems that can be they can be assisted so that their product or system can reach the market through us by sponsoring them and supporting them throughout the period. And we also want to be deliberate in our procurement system in such a way that we want to set aside in terms of our procurement, and we'll want to set aside 30% of our procurement that will be designated to designated groups in terms of women, youth, and people with disability. We noted that out of the 10 million, if we can get 30% out of that, that is designated to this group, that would be the contribution that we would have made on in terms of economic reconstruction and recovery plan. While we acknowledge that doing business, it's also got an element of risk, we also want to highlight the risks that will also be faced as an organization that is operating in a very highly technical sphere. And these are some of the risks that we want to share with the portfolio committee in terms of how do we go about doing our business. And we acknowledge, of course, that we are affected by this risk, either economic risk or business. And our structured risk management process that helps management to better understand in terms of how this risk might impact the organization and to appropriate risk mitigating initiatives. And ASA will strive for the culture of openness and transparency in which the identified risk will be disclosed proactively and unexpected events will be or are reported as soon as they occur. And the executive is taking responsibility in terms of the designing and implementing and also operating in an adequately functioning risk management system. And our objectives in terms of our risk management is to identify and manage the strategic, operational, financial performance, financial reporting, as well as the compliance risk in which we are exposed. By this, will then promote effectiveness, efficiency in terms of our operations, and to promote reliable performance and financial reporting, and promote compliance with laws and regulations. And the executive is aware that such a framework can neither provide an absolute assurance that its objectives will be achieved, nor can it entirely prevent material errors, losses, fraud, and violations of laws and regulations. We have an executive committee that will owns and manage the risk, and which their function involve the identifications and assessing those risks being undertaken and establish appropriate controls to mitigate the risk. And then there are adequate management controls in place to monitor ongoing compliance and highlight control breakdown. We've got an oversight committee that reports to the board under the auspice of Audit and Risk Committee that will help us to identify this. And the Audit and Risk Committee is assisted by the internal audit function that is currently being co-sourced both in-house as well as an outsourced part of it to assist them in terms of other areas that they cannot handle, like the IT and other issues. And that internal audit is setting that. And we further identify that in implementing our mandate, we are faced with these several risks that may interfere in terms of our implementation of business objectives. And we also noting that this risk relates to our operational processes, while others may relate to our business environment. And some of these risks may have an impact on our business, on the financial conditions, economic conditions, and the results of our operations. They may be relevant now as may be described, but some may not necessarily be in the order of their materiality or the likelihood. These risks are not the only ones that we are faced. Some risks may not yet be known to us, and certain risks that we do not currently believe to be material could be in future. We highlighted our strategic risk here, Chair. I will just indicate in terms of this block, Chair, our third block, it indicates in terms of our target. We spoke of the 6 schemes that we want to produce in this current year. But for us to produce that 6 schemes, we also acknowledge that there's a risk where we define it as it's a lack of relevant expertise and competencies for the development of eco-label scheme specifications. So it's important that we also highlight the risk of us having impacted in terms of our objective. We also indicated that of the 87% that of the project that needs to be assessed, there is a lack of accredited suppliers to conduct the assessments. That is the challenges that we are facing. In the Agrement 20 certificates, there's a lack of market penetrations, which may result in a low volume of application being received. On a 4 Agrement certified product systems and market usage report, there's a lack of internal resources and exposure of low impact of ASA certified product and systems. While in terms of participating on those agreements to introduce the innovative products and systems, the inability to support and promote the introduction and the use of certified non-product products and systems. Under quality and compliance, a lack of accreditation of ASA quality assessors and lack of implementation of documented information into current certified quality management system. These are the 6 strategic risks, and the next 5 strategic risks is that under a clean external audit, which these risks apply across the board, it's a high staff turnover and capacity constraint. In terms of spending our budget, we plan to spend almost 96%. We also acknowledge that the risk of non-responsive markets to supply chain requests and lack of adequate expertise for the development of specifications. In paying all our service provider within the 30 days, there is a risk of ineffective internal control environment. and the approved budget spent with zero irregular expenditure, there's a risk of non-compliance with the supply chain management and procurement prescripts, policies, and procedures. Whereas in terms of the zero fruitless and wasteful expenditure, there's an unhonored procurement commitment that may result in financial loss and procurement of non-beneficial goods and services. The last two risks, Chair, it relates to the training, that insufficient training analysis and lack of succession and retention process. And lastly, within the ICT, is that there's the risk of lack of relevant and latest IT application to support our organizational structure. In conclusion, Chair, Agrement South Africa contribute towards the national imperatives and global sustainability by undertaking a technical assessment for innovative construction products. Agrement is an authoritative technical assessment of system performance. Contributes towards the fast-tracking economic development by allowing safe introduction of appropriate and suitable products and facilitate the safe introductions of improved construction products and facilitate the global acceptance of South African produced products. Provides an independent, authoritative technical assurance of fitness for purpose. Before I finish, Chair, I need to highlight in our previous presentation, annual and the prior APP, the committee expressed its concern in terms of ASA having not physically or present or not known in terms of its campaign, in terms of its work, what it does, where it's located. And I must say, Chair, since then we have made an inroads in the sense that we have identified 9 community radio stations in 9 provinces, and we advertise our work in terms of what we do and how people can reach us in those communities. And the response has been great. And we further complemented that campaign by also having 2 interviews with Radio SA-FM in January, in December, as well as in January, by the executive manager and the acting CEO. Those interviews were a success in such a way that since then, our media platform have shown an increase in terms of the following, in terms of people wanting to know what Agrement does. And we also acknowledge that that is not the end, but it's just the beginning. And we are starting to realize how important it's this campaign, and we want to take it further. And soon we should be able to fly our agreement or our logo on TV. And that is the process, the project that we're working on. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, CEO. Chairperson, I just forgot to indicate in my opening remarks that Richard Sumanje was actually appointed as the new CEO of Agrement with effect from the 1st of April 2022 after the tragic loss of former CEO. With that, thank you very much, Chairperson. May I hand back over to you.
Thank you, Chair. We also welcome the new CEO and really appreciate these strides that you have taken. In fact, listening to what you have always been saying, that I know Honorable Higlin would say one of the best kept secret is Agrement SA. Thank you for that. Honorable members, can we then interact with the 2 presentations, the one of IDT, Agrement SA, Honorable Siwisa, Honorable Graham Mare, Honorable Higlin, in that order, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm requesting to keep my video off. Is it okay, Chair?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Chairperson. And let me start with Agrement SA because that's the one I think I read intensively this morning when I was preparing for the others. I have a few questions, Chair, and then one of the questions is that in their presentation that they've sent us is that they've got companies that requested for them to test their material. Are any of the companies, South African companies or novice people who use very simple material to build something out of it? It comes to my mind of the two girls who started using waste material to make bricks. So are there any of the South African people that have requested that their services to test their material if they are very innovative and sustainable? Has Agrement SA actually advocated towards interested party, whether individuals or groups in South Africa, if they've gone out there to tell people, you know, if you want to test your material, you can come to us. And then how are they assisting people who are financially strained? Because I know testing material, you need to pay something. And then has the entity engaged contractors and recommended some of the material that were tested by other companies, if there are any companies in South Africa, which may lead to job creation? And then I get to the finance services, which takes me to slide 8. They say 4 or less irregular expenditure. This is very worrying when I share that they are making provision. And I ask myself, why should, if you've got so much confidence, it says to me, you don't have any confidence. And then you are making room for 4 or less percentage of irregular expenditure. Are there any reasons that make them to come up with such a comment? And then is the entity, okay, I think the one of involving novice people who are interested in how to make products and then take them through what is the best way, or are they assisting novice people who also want to endeavor into the process of using waste to convert into any sustainable material that can be utilized out there? And then to the minister, I would ask, is there any negotiations or do you have any plans to involve or to convince the Department of Human Settlement or to involve contractors to actually use some of the material that is being tested or that has been recommended by Agrement SA? And then can we get the timeframes for all of these things that they said they want to do? When I get to IDT, unfortunately, we're on our way from Parliament to home, but there's one point that stood up for me, which is the presenter said that there are promising projects that need to be done by IDT. And this morning, CIDB said that there's a decrease in contractors, or contractors are not renewing their contracts because of lack of work. That is why their APP has a decrease compared to last year. Because when I check, my fear is that the entities are working hand in hand. They are working hand in hand. The other one needs the other one. But now you get the report that IDT says we've got a promise of so many projects that are going to happen between 2022 until 2024 or 25. And then you've got CIDB. This is a question to the minister actually, to say, Minister, can you explain the issue of CIDB of decrease in contractors because of lack of work? And now IDT is saying that we've got promising projects that are coming up, which means that we are going to need more contractors or more subcontractors on board. That's my only questions for now, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Siwisa. Honorable Graham Murray.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'd just like to start with Agrement. I just want to make a comment. And I just want to say how thrilled I am about the progress made in the advertising of the products. I feel like we've actually had an impact as a portfolio committee in this term, which is really fantastic. And as Honourable Hicklin will continue to tell you, you need to be out there telling everybody about what you do and the amazing work that you do. So congratulations, that's really exciting, and keep going with marketing yourselves, because you've got a lot to sell. I know Honourable Hicklin is going to go into Agrement in depth and detail, so I will leave that up to her. I've just got some inputs on IDT. I have to say that this is the most positive presentation we've had from IDT since we took office. I feel like there's a renewed verve and vigor in the organization. I think Ms. Hill has got an enthusiasm that's infectious. Ms. Malala seems to be inspired. So I just want to congratulate all involved on a very positive and uplifting IDT presentation for the first time since we've been in Parliament. I just have a few questions. On page 17 of the APP, you speak to the SIPs, and I just wanted to know whether or not any of the SIPs have actually been allocated to the IDT, or whether or not this is kind of wishful thinking on the part of the IDT. And then on slide 5, when you speak about the values, I think it's great that your focus is very client-centric. However, what excites me even more is that you've become commercially minded, and I think that's a general failing across government, is that they forget that they are actually allowed to make money on projects, and that they should be driving a sort of commercially viable program in their business. So I think it's great that has formed part of your value system. And then also your internal environment. I thought that this was a bit of a wish list, but you spoke about it being based on the determination of your core business, essentially, and that you have a certainty of mandate. And I still don't believe that IDT has a certainty of mandate. I'm not entirely sure that the IDT understands where it wants to be or where it should be positioning itself. You know, you talk about building organizational capacity and the transformation of the entity, but I don't think that you actually have a clear vision of what you want to achieve. And I do believe that a lot of what you're doing is historically imposed upon you, and possibly the work that you're looking at doing going forward is not necessarily necessary, or there's not a proper gap in the market for it. So I was thinking, you know, perhaps the IDT should look at transforming itself into other areas. Things like facilities management, which we know is a huge issue for the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, to maybe focus more on repairs and refurbishment. We've been talking a lot about maintenance and upgrading existing infrastructure. Perhaps IDT's role could be more in terms of that, getting involved in the ROTP program, doing maintenance assessments on behalf of the department, and possibly looking for ongoing work that's sort of you know, a 3-year facilities maintenance contract then gives you certainty of income, as opposed to relying entirely on new projects. And I'm concerned that so much of what you're basing your projections on is uncertain, because you are hoping that you're going to get these projects coming in. And historically, the IDT hasn't done that well. So there is a little bit of an element of mistrust in the market. Your slide 19, and what I wanted to say as well is that your vision and your mission actually speak to those, to kind of changing direction a little bit, and maybe moving away from the social infrastructure and moving into other areas where you could work possibly more hand in hand with Infrastructure SA and the departments. Slide 19 indicated targets. It would have been helpful if we had passed figures to do comparisons with. It's very difficult to say, okay, well, these are your targets for the new financial year, but we have no idea where you were on the spectrum in terms of the last few financial years. You speak about replaced facilities on slide 19. I don't know what replaced facilities are. If somebody could just clarify that. And also, how will you get those, and on what informed the targets that you've set? And the same with the greenfields. And I'm wondering why you're speaking about specific numbers and not percentages. Percentages might be more easily attainable than actually giving specific numbers, unless you already have those projects in the pipeline and they're guaranteed. Slide 20. Slide 20 speaks to this the contractor development program. Now, CIDB have got a contractor development program. CBE talk about contractor development. DPWI has a contractor development program. It feels like every entity has got a contractor development program, and they seem to be doing the same thing but differently. And my question is, surely it would make sense to centralize these contractor development programs and for the entities in the department to feed into one centralized program, than for each entity and the department to be running individual contractor programs. So that's just a concern. And then I just wanted to ask, slide 28. Why is the escalation fee in the management fee not already being introduced as part of the projects? Is that because you are still waiting for confirmation from National Treasury, and is that an imperative? Are you going to be doing a new organogram once you've ascertained the direction you're going to be following? And then you spoke about 60% of the budget is travel. Is that 60% of the whole budget? I didn't understand that on slide 28, how 60% of your budget could be work-related travel. And then finally on slide 29, you spoke about consultants, and I'm concerned that we are spending money that could be earned by IDT if we are outsourcing to consultants. And that's me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Graham. Honorable Higley.
Thank you so much. Chair, please tell me if my signal is bad again, and then I will take my video off. Can you hear me clearly?
It's good. We can hear you clearly this time.
Great stuff. Thank you so much. I have one question for the IDT. I noticed in your budget, you had a static number for staff complement of 247 people, and yet you said you are banking on additional staff. How are you going to accommodate that in your budget if for the next 3 years you have a static number of staff of 247 people? It's just a question that I have that I think you need to actually look at. That's all I'm going to go for on the IDT. I'm now going to go on to Agrement. Mr. Mahachi, if you could see me when Mr. Sumanji was doing the discussion about the 9 community radio stations, I was actually stamping my feet in joy. I was so excited because you know that I keep saying Agrement SA is the best kept secret in South Africa. The core mandate of Agrement is the technical assessment and issuing of approvals certificates for, pardon me, non-standardized construction-related products. And I've always said that the core mandate is useless if the products remain in the Eric Milorby hub, and that what we have to do, what Agrement has to do, is create a transverse link to inform municipalities, province and national government departments for human settlements, for example, about these innovative building techniques and products that are on offer, because these certified products must revolutionize the way in which housing backlogs and future green housing developments can be addressed. They must be aggressively marketed, and they must be incorporated in all tender documents. I mean, that must be your goal. That must be what you have to do. They must be incorporated in tenders to come. We have to increase the footprint for green products in the years to come. didn't see anything in your APPs that spoke about a solid marketing strategy. And the problem that I have with that is that you have a 40% staff vacancy rate by your own statements that urgently needs to be addressed. Your report speaks about the fact that you are urgently in need of staff to help with evaluating, assessing, and approving existing infrastructure development technologies, and that the evaluation and certification base of Agrement SA needs to grow for additional technological evaluators and quality assurance people to be brought in, specialists to be brought in to help support the functioning in the medium and the long term. And yet, you are overcapacitating your budget. Your approved budget is 21,175 million rand. Your audited outcome was 22,062 million rand, which means you overspent on your budget by 104% with a 40% staff deficit. If you had your full 62 staff in your office, how would you cope? You seriously overspent on your budget with a staff deficit of 40%. You're in serious trouble. You either haven't looked at your organizational structure correctly, or you are overspending on your staff. Somewhere along the line, you have to reorganize yourself because you desperately need staff, you desperately need marketing, but you are overspending on your staff complement. I am over the moon that you are marketing, but you need to look at the structure and the way in which you are running the business. Other than that, I couldn't be happier. Mr. Samanji, welcome, welcome, welcome. I love Agrement. It's my favorite department in DPWI. If I could come and work at DPWI's Agrement SA, I would be there in a heartbeat. I love it, I love it, I love it. Thank you very, very much.
You don't disappoint Honorable Hicklin when it comes to Agrement. Honorable Van Schalkwyk.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Hicklin is so overjoyed and it's almost contagious. I want to welcome the presentations that has been made and won't venture much in terms of the IDT presentation. But just to mention maybe one issue, Chairperson, I want to ask them that do they have measures in place and sufficient capacity to ensure effective revenue generation? Because we know that in the past, it's always been a problem. So if they want to be sustainable as an institution, they must be able to render services, but also be able to keep track of their revenue and actually earn it. Then in terms of Agrement as a chairperson, I'm also welcoming what's happening there and the positive spin as in IDT. And we really hope that it will reap positive rewards. However, Chairperson, I'm very worried about the high vacancy rate, which stands at 40%, and increased expenditure in terms of compensation of employees. So I want to know, what will the impact be on the operation in future, the staff shortages, and how do they plan to recruit and fill these vacancies, but also to develop the staff that they currently have to ensure, Chairperson, that they acquire specialist skills and be better staff. Then, Chairperson, I want to know, does Agrement have sufficient budget to recruit all these and train all these competent staff in line with the approved organogram. Then when looking at the current vacancies, Chairperson, I see there's a lot of key positions that's vacant, like the CEO, the procurement manager, the procurement specialist, quality assurance officer. And I'm just wondering, Chairperson, whilst they have a CFO, there's a financial officer also currently vacant. So I need to know what is the role of those two positions, the CFO versus the financial officer, and do they really need that position, or do they really need both? So in terms of those strategic positions that's currently vacant, I want to know what is the impact of these positions being vacant on the ability to effectively deliver on its mandate as Agrement SA. Thank you very much, Chairperson. I'll pause there.
Thank you, honorable members, on your inputs. Just comments. I also want to add my voice on the new developments in Agrement SA, that of ensuring that it is advertised and it is marketed even out. That's a good strategy that you have taken. And in fact, even the chairperson of the board, in his remarks, he indicated that they're going to work with human settlement. We really need to see that. Minister is here now. We have so many entities here in the Department of Public Works, but you find out that, yes, they have their own executive powers and all that, but they're working in silos. I really don't understand that IDT coming up. We also appreciate that IDT, I think in a way, is coming out of ICU. We found IDT when it came in 2019 in a serious situation. In fact, it was on the verge of being even closed down. We fought as this portfolio committee that we can't close down that important entity. But now you can see, as Honorable Graham Murray has indicated, that IDT will maybe end up the way it was when it is going only to rely on projections of contractors, which it is not even sure that they will. I think the department has to make a commitment of ensuring, as it used to with IDT. We have seen so many things that were done by IDT, especially IDT, when it was sound and working good, not when it was ailing. We have seen a lot, courts and all that. So if this issue of maintenance can also be given to IDT, as we also the issue of EPWP, IDT is also facilitating that. It will mean that IDT is working well and it will have its own budget. It won't rely, at least it will be sure that there is a steady income that is coming in. Minister, one of the issues that was raised, I want to raise it again. We raised it yesterday. The issue of demolishing the temporary structures, especially in Acacia Park, that has asbestos roof. If Minister, you can work with your department, work with Agrement SA, so that it provides, when those new houses are built, such the one that we saw when we visited Agrement SA, those innovations. We don't need to build houses using bricks and mortar. I think that time has come and gone. We need to go the green way. I think we all now understands that we need to go the green way. So if we cannot have these entities working in silos, ensure that if there's something, then you bring in Agrement so that they bring their innovations, you bring in IDT, you could have entities that are working and functioning so well, Minister. Mine is not a question, it's just those comments. Over to you. I don't know whether you're going to start, Minister, or you will close after they have all spoken.
No, I will start now, Honorable Chairperson. Unfortunately, I was driving from Parliament, so I missed the beginning of the meeting to make an input before the presentation. So if you will allow me to do that first, and then information that I need to share with the committee. But let me start with Agrement SA. We have introduced Agrement SA a week ago to the MEC for Public Works and Human Settlements, MEC Sabia. And today we have sent Minister Sabia a copy of all of the different alternative building methodologies from Agrement. They've also sent me a copy. I will also forward the copy to Honorable Eklund. I'm sure she will love it. And tomorrow I'll be meeting with the MEC on the proposals of Agrement and with Agrement in KZN. But we'll give the MEC the opportunity to select what he would like to do out of, or like to take out of the Agrement proposals. I'm also forwarding the same methodologies to the National Minister of Human Settlements. We will also be sharing it with the next MINMAC meeting. I will call Agrement SA to come and do a presentation to all the MECs, and that our Intergovernmental Relations Department must assist Agrement to further do their marketing so that we can get them into all government departments with the work that they are doing. So that is on Agrement. Then if I can just come to IDT, I have to remind members and just take us a bit back. On the 25th of November, 2020, there was a cabinet resolution that I must submit a roadmap and a turnaround plan for the IDT's reconfiguration and transformation. Now, what we've done since that time, honorable members, after the cabinet resolve on the 25th of November, and so cabinet approved that the proposed reconfiguration of the IDT be strengthened in line with the work done by the Presidential State-Owned Entities Council on the rationalization of state-owned entities. That's part of the resolution. And they also approved that the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure submit a comprehensive proposal on the IDT's reconfiguration to Cabinet Committee for the economic sectors, investment, employment, and infrastructure development in due course. We have reached that point now, honorable members. Subsequently to this resolution, DPWI appointed GTEC, the Government Technical Advisory Center, to assist IDT with the options, because I must present options to Cabinet. Also, the DPWI then appointed the new trustees with effect from the 31st of July 2021. And I further requested the trustees to consider the options for the transformation and or reconfiguration of the IDT. So the trustees urgently applied themselves to the request, and they have done some work and some proposal that IDT has come up with. And from the board, after researching corporate forms options, the IDT board resolved that there are no cogent reasons why the IDT should not remain a Schedule II entity. Although the board agrees that its corporate form should be changed from that of a trust so as to align it with other Schedule II entities. Now remember, IDT had this double identity of being a trust and a Schedule II entity. The board prefer that it be officially be a Schedule II entity instead of having these double identities. Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, we paid GTEC 1.5 million rand for the first phase that they've been working with IDT to come up with this proposal. So where are we now, members? I'm in the process of completing a cabinet memorandum that must go through the economic cluster and then to the economic cabinet committee. And I'm aiming to finalize that process, to get it by cabinet before the end of June. So that is parallel work and work in progress. Then if I just want to, and in terms of the slides presented by IDT, I think the critical issues for me are captured in slide 23, slide 26, and slide 27. And I think Honorable Graham Murray also raised it. The challenge will be to secure the new business and the explicit need to get a huge amount of work from national programs, which would include a DPWI and ISA. Then also on slide 26 and 27, clearly also indicate that in the absence of a projected project pipeline, the entity will require grant funding to sustain its operation. And then I think it's on slide number 7, the IDT board do raise the growing concern status that IDT will work toward becoming a growing concern over the next 3 years. Financial injection will be sourced to fund critical areas of operation to improve efficiencies with a target of financial surplus or at least break even. So IDT also acknowledge the shortage of finances. And that is also of concern to me, and we have to engage with National Treasury. And as you know, we will try our best to persuade National Treasury. Minister Godongwana, I will assist the IDT. When they approach National Treasury, they must actually approach National Treasury together with the department so that we can assist them to motivate, because this will be classified as a bailout. Currently, between 2013 and 2021, the bailout amounted to over 673 million rand. So I'm very cautious, but I'm also very hopeful, especially with the plan that IDT has produced. It is not just, it's all subject to us securing funding from National Treasury. I will also put into the cabinet memorandum the current amounts that is required by IDT at an operational level. I think we have in the past 2 financial years provide is it 29 million or 92 million? I can't remember, for operational purposes. So members, there's some work to be done. I think the vision from the board is good in terms of making a contribution to the building of social infrastructure. Also, the suggestion by Honorable Agrement about maybe also including maintenance. It's a brilliant idea because as the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, we deal with at least, I mean, the number of complaints that we receive annually has increased from the previous year of 40,000 to last year of 70,000. And so the Facility Management Department of DPWI has never been able to separate the reactive maintenance to the planned maintenance. So, and then also our failure as DPWI to appoint a full-time Deputy Director General. That process has been going on for about 18 months. And finally, last week, the acting minister, Minister Messi, rejected the process and said we must start over. So we will take IDT hand in hand, and let's get over the cabinet proposal, and I will assist IDT to motivate for the funding. But that currently is the situation. We have to now change that perception of the past IDT and what happened there to convince cabinet that we should try again, and that we, with the new board that we have on board, that we can able to see how far we can take it. So the budget is of concern for me, and as I say, everything is subject to the budget, Chairperson. So those are my comments on IDT, and then I can also submit to the committee the work that is being done by National Treasury GTEC. They did ask for some funding for phase 2 of the project, and that funding has not been approved yet by the department, but I think that's the least of my worries. So the whole of IDT it's in a working progress in this turnaround strategy, going to cabinet, going to National Treasury. And I will request that the portfolio committee give us about 2 months or even less than that, so that we engage, especially on the financial issues with Treasury, and then come and give the committee some feedback after that. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Minister. Over to the entities. IDT first.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good evening, Minister, and thank you very much for your input and comment. And Honorable Chair, I must agree that the Minister and the department have been very supportive to what we have achieved up to so far. And it has been through their support. And indeed, I want to note the comments of the committee. We have been working very hard to change the integrity and how the South Africans see the IDT, just to make sure that we transform the entity. So I just want to confirm what the Minister had said. I have noted the comments. I will start with Honorable Agremment's comment on the page 17 on the SIPs. And I must confirm, Honorable Agrement, that as the IDT, we are contributing to the SIPs in terms of SIP 6, SIP 12, SIP 13, and SIP 14. And on the slide 19, on the comparison, We have noted your comment, and we will ensure that there's a comparison or baseline before we touch on the target, so that we are able to see in the previous financial year what was the target and what is the new target moving forward. On the target on new or replaced facilities, it's where we have to replace the existing facilities that are dilapidated. The target is based on the current business and a projection of a bit of the additional business. And on slide 20, your comment on this contractor development program, it is indeed true, Honorable, that different departments and CIDB and different entities are implementing the contractor development program, and your comment on centralization of this program is noted. In our engagement, when we have our meetings with our with DPWI, we will also touch on it and CIDB as well, because we do have meetings where we discuss this. Currently, we are using the CIDB guidelines on implementation of the CDP, but we will discuss it with the department as well to see how we can centralize it. On your comment on the management fee, with the new agreements that we are signing, I must confirm that we are negotiating new management fees with our clients. Treasury is not a stumbling block in this regard. We have sent a submission to them, highlighted our intention to increase the management fee. There was a meeting with Treasury, and they made input and suggestions on how we can do it. We are just waiting to finalize the practice note that will then be circulated to client departments in terms of the implementation of the management fee. On Honorable Van Schalk's vague comment, it was on measures in place to ensure revenue generation. I think the minister did touch on it, and we are putting measures in place, especially in line with the reconfiguration of the IDT, to ensure that with the additional revenue that we will be generating, we will be able to implement. I'm not sure if from my team I've missed out on something, but I have answered the question. Thank you.
Any additions from the team?
Chair, if I may, it's the CFO of IDT.
Okay, please.
I think there were two finance-related questions, Chair. Slide 25 with regard to travel expenditure. Just to clarify that the 60% relates to 60% of total travel expenditure that was budgeted for, 6.9 million for travel for projects, and then 4.6 million for travel for administration. And then there was another question on slide 25 related to the staff complement. It indicates 247 budgeted for staff complement. So it was asked why the figure is static over the 4 years. The reason for that, Chair, is that currently we have 203 employees. So we plan on increasing the staff complement in order to deliver on the mandate of IDT. So we've budgeted for a staff complement of 247 and provisioned for that expenditure on slide 25. Under employee costs, I've categorized the different types of budgeted employee cost expenditure. I've indicated current payroll budgeted for employee costs, and then for new recruitments, and then also for program managers as well. So if you add the three together, it comes about 197 million, which is the total cost, including provision for new recruits, Chair. I think that's all related to finance. Thank you, Chair.
Agrement.
Thank you, Chair. Let me check through the technical questions and leave the difficult financial questions to the CEO. Right. From I think the question raised by Honorable Silisa around the products that are certified by Agrement. We do have several products, local and international products, that are actually certified by Agrement. And when we look at specifics, like what you mentioned on waste materials, right? When we do Agrement certification, we look at many different types of performance tests, which would include your fire, structural, water penetration, etc., that are required. And unfortunately, products such as waste, you will find that they may actually be able to satisfy other requirements and fail the other requirements. And specifically when you deal with waste materials, water penetration is a problem. So you will probably find then that the product has failed one or two components, and if it fails one or two of those performance requirements, we fail the system. We cannot allow the system to be used for human settlements or for any other social infrastructure if it fails to satisfy even one performance requirement. But what we also do, because we have got limited budget, and those to conduct those tests is quite expensive, because we need to throw those products into fire. We need to be able to go into the lab and do quite intensive tests. So the only thing that we can do is to provide support to the system owners on what and how they should be able to come up with the products that may be able to meet the requirements. But in most cases, they have to go back into the lab and onto the drawing board and look into the composition of their material so that they can satisfy the requirements. So it's quite a bit of a tricky, and you probably find it when we do performance evaluation of these systems, then that why do we have so many systems rejected? Because now, if there is a problem on the ground, you are going to come back to me and say, hey, your product is failing, your product is falling down, your product is catching fire, etc. So we need to be able to make sure that all performance requirements are actually met. So it's quite a bit of a challenge, particularly for those who are bringing in their technologies for the first time. But through iterations, we'll be able to actually assist them, not from a financial perspective, but from a knowledge perspective on what they should do to address the shortfalls. Then I think with some of the issues that have been highlighted by the Honorable Minister, thank you very much. Let me leave the CEO to deal with irregular expenditure and some of the issues around the staff complement.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you. And also perhaps just to add in terms of what the Honorable Suisa requested or inquired regarding the financial assistance, is that part of our strategy in this current year, that's where we're going to advertise to call upon prospective innovators to apply from us. We're going to assess and identify those ones that can be looked at in terms of how they can be assessed, and look at how we can assist them in terms of their products, so as to introduce their products, to support their products to the market. It's one of the elements that we're looking at. Regarding the slide that reflects the plus or minus 5% of irregular expenditure, we looked at the current experience in the previous years that we have incurred irregular expenditure, and in our plans, we incorporated the element of error that there could be an irregular expenditure that we might incur, that if we happen to incur such a irregular expenditure, should not be more than 4 or 5%. That was in terms of our plan. So it was not to say we don't have confidence in terms of our systems, but we do have, but our systems somehow it's got a risk that are not foolproof, and we sometimes happen to incur those irregular expenditure, which has been the case in the previous years. And we also acknowledge in terms of the improvement that we have made, yes, in terms of the advertisement, and we still got a long way, and we are working on it. And to Honorable Hicklin, we do have a marketing strategy that has been approved, and we also shared our marketing and communication strategy with the department. And that's where we started to implement the issue of the community radio stations, the adverts, and the TV. We'll still be engaging with the other media platforms and also social media platforms in terms of how we can broaden our footprint in terms of making our presence felt as Agrement and also what Agrement does. So it's some of the challenge initiatives that we started looking at. In terms of the 40% staff vacancy, yes, this is our long-term view in terms of the 60% staff. We are looking over a longer term to see at a fully operational, we should be operating at 60 in terms of the human capital. But in a short term, this is we are facing. It will reflect in the current short term that we've got the 40% vacancy. But our plan is to fill those vacancies over a longer term period. As some, to make sure that it doesn't reflect the vacancy as it is, we are going to freeze them so that it doesn't reflect the current vacancy at 40, but at a number that is manageable. And we are going to look at that so that we manage those expectations. Regarding the budget that shown to be overdrawn compared to actual, it's because the part that reflected to be overdrawn, it's the contracts element of the cost of employment that has been funded by the retention. But in terms of our current plans, our budget were under cost of personnel. It was not necessarily overdrawn. Even if we look at the current year in terms of the plan, it reflects 25, but that 25, it takes into account the contract employee, which are 4 contract employees, which are funded by the funds that are approved by the National Treasury outside the approved budget. So that's where it is, and part of that, it's being funded outside. So we consciously manage our personnel costs so that we are not necessarily overdrawn. In terms of the marketing, yes, it's something that we continue to look at. We still think that there's a room that we can improve in terms of our marketing, because there's a lot that is happening, especially even taking the case of the 2 ladies, because I remember when we read about them in the newspapers and so forth, and finally we met with them, by the way, when they were presenting their case to us, and we appreciated in the manner that they financed. But we also noted that before they came to us, they didn't know us, and that is the awareness that we are owing to the public out there, and we are working on it. We addressed the issue under Honorable Fatskak Bey in terms of the 40%, and the special skills is what we are looking at. We are forming a strategic partnership with the South African Institute of Civil Engineers, where we want to exchange the skills. In this case, we are looking at the engineering side and the marketing, because they are well represented over the country, and our marketing teams are working with them. We also participated in their awards, and we sponsored some of their Young Engineer Awards. That was also a marketing, and they appreciated in the manner that we formed that strategic alliance, and we'll continue to work with them. What we want to see is that in their database, they've got the retired engineers that can indeed mentor our young engineers in terms of how they can improve and they can be capacitated. And we're looking at that in terms of how we can enhance and capacitate our current staff to operate at the specialist level. And that is what we're currently working on. They are not the only one. We also will be looking at the other engineering disciplines that are under the CIDB to form that strategic alliance in terms of how our various engineers can be assisted. Regarding the other vacant posts, including the CEO, the position for the CEO has now been filled. It's on the report came after. And the other procurement managers and officers, we've got an officer at the manager issue that will assess and whether it should be flagged for any way to be frozen. And the mandate is currently being undertaken because the strategic position had been filled. But however, once the CEO position fell and the CFO became vacant, and the interviews are scheduled next week to fill in, because we want to make sure that the strategic positions shouldn't remain vacant for a very long time. And we're also noting and the comments by the chairperson of the committee in as far as the marketing and the advertising, and we all will definitely be working with the department in terms of how we can be assisted in terms of really marketing and getting our products there, and especially the assistance that we are seeking is where we will need to introduce the introductions of a non-innovative product and system, especially where we can participate in their bid committees in introducing this product. That will definitely go a long way as Agrement, because it's our quest to make sure that these products are introduced, and we also make an undertaking that in terms of our mission is that we want to provide an assurance to the specifiers and the users of these innovative products that our products, the certified, ASA certified products, are safe to use and to be utilized in those areas of human settlement. I thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think in concluding remarks, I think we thank the honorable members for the comments, and I think we appreciate their inputs, and every time we get new ideas, and we always try and improve on our operations, and we welcome inputs made by the portfolio committee members. Thank you.
In the absence of any hands for follow-up questions, let me again add my voice in welcoming all the presentation, appreciating all the work that is clear that these two entities are doing. We are really happy with the direction that the IDT is taking. We hope that it won't fall into the trap of the previous time. But also, Minister, in closing, especially with IDT, we would really appreciate if the board and the new management would resolve. Remember, when we were saying that IDT must not be closed, we also said that there are employees there. So we must not be in a situation in which they are retrenched. We all know how unemployment is high in South Africa. And I understand that in the last few months, one of them passed on, the 5 that was retrenched, but others were taken back. So if the board and the management should follow that up, one was in depression and all those things. We have been getting all those calls from the employees of IDT. If the management and the board can follow all that up, I think, Minister, I've been talking with you on all those issues. We would really appreciate if you could conclude that those people had skill and they had worked at IDT, so they know. So what is happening there, they would be valuable for the entity. We appreciate what is being done by Agrement. I think Agrement is our shining star in all these entities in terms of the performance when it comes to audit and in terms of these innovations. We really appreciate that it has taken this direction, that it now markets and is advertised so that it is known that we have this gem in our country. Thank you again, Minister and your team. Thank you, honorable members, for your robust discussions. We will then on Friday look at our report and then adopt that report on Friday. Honorable members, if there are any issues that you have noted and you feel that they may not be included in the report on Friday, you may then raise them on Friday so that we adopt our report. So we will meet on Friday, honorable members. Thank you again. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, member. Thank you.
Recording
Bye.
stopped.
Yeah.